Before we dive into the practical, I need to talk to your spirit for a moment. There comes a time in your life when surviving isn't enough. You wake up and the mirror no longer reflects who you used to be. That version of you, the one shaped by fear, by other people's opinions, by comfort, is no longer invited into the future God is calling you to. And if you're going to rise into the fullness of your destiny, you've got to work not just on the outside, but deep within. Today, I want to talk to the people who are tired of the cycle, tired of starting over, tired of talking big and living small. Because if you want to step into your purpose, there are 5 things you must work on every single day. Not once a week, not when you feel inspired, every day. This is about discipline. This is about destiny. And this is about you. So lean in, sis. Get your heart ready, because we're about to build something unshakable. Your mindset is the engine of your life. It's the foundation upon which everything else is built. You can have the talent, the opportunity, the open doors, but if your mind is cluttered with doubt, fear, comparison, or insecurity, you will sabotage every blessing that comes your way. God can place the promise right in front of you, but if your mind is still shackled to past failures or the opinions of people who never built anything themselves, you will either overlook it or convince yourself you're not worthy to receive it. Every day you've got to renew your mind. That means waking up and choosing thoughts that align with where you're going, not where you've been. The enemy doesn't need to destroy your future if he can convince you to talk yourself out of it. He just needs you to keep recycling the same thoughts of inadequacy and fear. That's why scripture tells us to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. It's not a one-time act, it's a daily decision. You've got to wake up and decide, I will not live beneath the level God called me to. Your mindset determines how you respond to challenges. Some people see problems, others see opportunities. And it's not because the situation is different, it's because the perspective is different. When your mind is conditioned to see through the lens of growth, pain doesn't paralyze you, it teaches you. Rejection doesn't wreck you, it redirects you. Failure doesn't define you, it refines you. And that shift only happens when you commit to training your mind the way an athlete trains their body, with intention, repetition, and focus. Most people want change, but they don't want to confront the patterns of thought that keep them stuck. It's easier to blame people, the system, or your circumstances than to ask yourself the hard question: what lies am I still believing about myself? Some of us were handed broken mindsets from childhood, mindsets that said we weren't enough, that we were too much, that we had to shrink to be loved. And if you don't confront that, you'll carry that same thinking into your job, your marriage, your business, your calling. You'll keep praying for next level blessings while operating with first level thinking. This is why your mindset has to be the first thing you work on every day, before the email, before the phone call, before the scroll. You need to sit with yourself and do a mental inventory. What am I believing today? Who told me that? Does that thought serve my purpose or sabotage it? You've got to replace lies with truth, negativity with vision, chaos with clarity. Your thoughts are not just ideas floating in your head, they are seeds. And whatever you water will grow. If you water fear, it grows. If you water faith, it grows. If you water anxiety, it multiplies. But so does peace, so does confidence, so does boldness. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. It is the structure your destiny requires. Prayer will open the door, but discipline is what keeps you walking through it day after day, even when you don't feel like it. Talent can take you places, but only discipline will keep you there. You don't rise because you're gifted, you rise because you're consistent. And that's the part most people miss. They want breakthrough without obedience. They want elevation without commitment. But God doesn't just anoint desire, He anoints discipline. You cannot build a life of purpose on emotional motivation. Emotions are real, but they are unreliable. One day you feel like doing the work, and the next day you feel like disappearing. If you let your emotions lead, your life will always be a roller coaster of false starts and unfinished plans. That's why discipline is so powerful. It teaches you how to move even when your feelings don't agree. You show up because your calling requires it. You push through because your legacy depends on it. You follow through not because it's easy, but because it's who you are becoming. Discipline is the spiritual muscle that turns potential into power. And just like a muscle, it has to be trained. You don't get it by wishing. You don't get it by scrolling through inspiration. You get it by waking up and doing the hard thing over and over until it becomes second nature. Some of us are waiting for a sign, but the truth is, the sign is in the schedule. The blessing is hidden in the board. The breakthrough is buried in the repetition. There are no shortcuts. There's no spiritual bypass. You have to do the work. And not just the visible work, the private, secret, nobody claps for this kind of work. Discipline is what you do when nobody's watching, when the stage is empty and the crowd is gone. That's where true greatness is forged. Do you still pray when you're not in crisis? Do you still create when you're not being praised? Do you still serve when nobody's celebrating you? Because discipline doesn't need an audience, it needs a decision. A decision that says, my future is worth the sacrifice. My calling is worth the repetition. My purpose is worth the process. Sometimes discipline looks like turning off the distractions, saying no to invitations that don't align with your assignment, letting go of comfort so you can grab hold of growth. It means choosing structure over chaos, accountability over isolation, intentionality over impulse. You don't drift into purpose, you discipline your way into it. And every day you delay is a day you disconnect from the future that's waiting on your obedience. Discipline doesn't always look exciting, but it always produces fruit. It might be quiet, but it's never wasted. When you build discipline, you build the foundation that can carry the weight of the dreams you're praying for. Faith is not a feeling, it's a choice, a daily deliberate choice to believe in what you can't yet see. It's easy to have faith when the doors are opening, the prayers are being answered, and the favor is flowing. But what about when nothing is moving, when the silence is louder than the promise? That's when real faith shows up. Faith is the oxygen of your purpose. Without it, you'll suffocate under pressure. Without it, you'll settle for what's comfortable because you're too afraid to stretch for what's possible. Faith keeps you standing when everything around you says sit down. It whispers keep going when logic screams give up. Every single day you have to work on your faith like it's a lifeline, because it is. Faith isn't just for Sunday mornings or crisis moments. It's for the mundane, the messy, and the in-between. It's for the times when you've been faithful and still haven't seen fruit. When you've sown tears but haven't reaped joy. When you've obeyed the call and still feel like you're walking in circles. That's when faith has to become your posture. Not a performance, not a pretty quote, but a spiritual backbone that says, even here, I believe. Faith is not passive. It doesn't sit and wait for the perfect conditions. It moves, it prepares, it builds. Noah didn't wait for the rain to start building. He had faith enough to follow God's instruction, even when it didn't make sense. That's what working on your faith looks like. Doing what God said when it doesn't look like it's working. Showing up in the wilderness with expectation. Speaking life in the middle of law. Trusting divine timing when your timeline is screaming for answers. Some people think faith means everything will always work out the way you want, but real faith means trusting God even when it doesn't. Faith doesn't promise comfort, it promises presence, it promises strength. It promises that no matter what it looks like, you are never walking alone. Every day you wake up, you got to check your faith levels. What am I believing today? What fear is trying to replace my faith? Who am I listening to, God or my doubt? because faith and fear cannot both be in the driver's seat. One of them has to bow. You can't grow in faith if you don't feed it. You feed it by staying in the Word. You feed it by surrounding yourself with voices that lift you, not drain you. You feed it by remembering what God already brought you through. Sometimes the enemy isn't attacking your life. He's attacking your faith because he knows if he can shake that, he can stall your movement. That's why you have to be relentless about protecting and strengthening it. You have to guard it like treasure because it is. You have to speak it out loud when your thoughts want to spiral. You have to anchor yourself in it when your circumstances try to uproot you. Your character is the foundation your future rests on. It is the part of you that doesn't need a stage, doesn't need applause, and doesn't need validation to be strong. Character is who you are when no one's watching. It's the private decisions that shape your public life. You can have charisma that draws the room, but if your character can't hold the weight of your influence, it will all collapse. God will not give you a platform your integrity can't protect. That's why every day you must work on becoming a person who is trustworthy, honest, consistent, and true. We live in a culture that celebrates visibility over values. It rewards performance over principles. But God builds from the inside out. He's not impressed by what we do in front of people if what we do behind the scenes is contaminated. You can't fake fruit. You can't pretend your way into peace. At some point, what's in your heart will show up in your habits. And if you don't have strong character, even the blessings you prayed for will feel like burdens because you won't have the maturity to handle them. Working on your character means doing the hard, often uncomfortable work of accountability. It means having the courage to confront your ego, your pride, your bad habits, and your broken patterns. It's allowing people to speak truth to you even when it cuts. It's choosing growth over image. It's choosing what's right over what's easy. Every time you do that, you are reinforcing the kind of person who can carry purpose with humility, success with grace, and influence with honor. There will be moments when you are tested, not by trials, but by opportunities. Not every open door is divine. Some of them are distractions dressed up as destiny. And if your character is not developed, you'll chase what glitters and miss what's God. You'll say yes to things that look good, but pull you out of alignment. Character gives you the discernment to recognize what aligns with your values and what just feeds your ego. It teaches you how to say no, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. No to shortcuts. No to compromise. No to relationships that make you shrink just to stay connected. You must also work on forgiveness, humility, and truthfulness because character is not just about resisting sin, it's about reflecting Christ. How do you treat people who can't offer you anything in return? How do you speak about others when they're not in the room? How do you respond when you're wrong? Those aren't small things. Those are the roots of your influence. You can't pour out to others if the vessel is contaminated with hidden bitterness or unchecked arrogance. You can't be trusted with more if you haven't stewarded well what you already have. Character is the soil in which every gift, every opportunity, every dream must be planted. If the soil is shallow, nothing will last. But if it's deep, if it's real, if it's solid, then no storm can take away what God has established through you. Your vision is your compass. It's the internal picture of a future that hasn't happened yet, but pulls on your spirit like it's already real. Without vision, you will drift through life responding to distractions, emotions, and noise instead of living by divine direction. Vision gives your choices meaning. It makes the sacrifice make sense. It gives your no power and your yes purpose. Every single day, you have to reconnect with the vision God placed in you because life will always try to blur it. Circumstances, disappointment, comparison, and fear will try to convince you that you were foolish to believe something greater was possible. Vision is not about what you see with your eyes. It's about what you know in your spirit. It's about the whisper that keeps calling you higher, even when everything around you looks average. It's the glimpse of what's coming that won't let you settle for less. But vision doesn't just come to pass because you have it. It has to be nurtured, protected, written down, prayed over, aligned with your decision. You cannot afford to treat your vision casually. You can't bury it under excuses and still expect it to grow. Working on your vision every day means reminding yourself of the why behind your work. When the tasks feel repetitive, when the days feel slow, when the doors feel closed, you go back to the vision. You read it, you speak it, you let it stir your spirit again. Because vision is fuel. And without fuel, even the most gifted person will burn out. You weren't created to survive the days. You were created to lead them, shape them, build through them. And vision gives you the blueprint. You also have to protect your vision from the wrong voices. Not everyone can handle what God showed you. Not everyone will see what you see, and that's okay. Vision doesn't require a crowd.